What's up, fantasy managers? Welcome back to another episode of the First Pitch Podcast brought to you by PitcherList.com. My name is Jake Crumpler, and I'll be your host for this edition of the pod. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler, and you can find all of my work at crumplerbaseball.com. Let's dive into everything baseball related from Tuesday, June 10th. We'll start it off, as always, with the transactions, injuries, news, and notes from around the league. And we'll start it off with the bad news as third baseman Matt Chapman was placed on the 10-day IL with hand inflammation. He hurt his hand while diving back to first base on Sunday, and it sounds like he'll miss more than the minimum time after undergoing an MRI that revealed strained ligaments in his hand. So Chapman will be out for more than just the 10 days. Looks like Casey Schmidt will take over at the hot corner every day for the Giants until Chapman returns. Next, we have starting pitcher Bryce Miller, who was placed on the 15-day IL with elbow inflammation. He missed 3 weeks with the same injury in May, so he's looking at a longer IL stint. This time, Miller is scheduled, or looks to be on track for a 4 to 6 week timeline this time around, which is very unfortunate. But in a corresponding move, starting pitcher Logan Evans was recalled from the minors to start in Arizona on Tuesday. He tossed 5 innings, allowing 7 hits and 4 earned runs while walking 2 and striking out 5, inducing 8 whiffs with 28% CSW across 87 pitches, and he'll stick in the rotation until Miller returns and could stick in it for the rest of the season because Evans has been pretty solid in his rookie campaign. Next, we have Chris Taylor, who was placed on the 10-day IL with a fractured hand, which he fractured after being hit by a pitch. So Taylor likely out for at least a month, probably closer to 2. Lamont Wade Jr. was added to the active roster in a corresponding move, or really this was the corresponding move to Wade Jr. being added to the Angels active roster. And with Taylor out, it looks like Scott Kingery will see more playing time at second base. Next, we have second baseman Michael Massey, who is placed on the 10-day IL with an ankle sprain. Looks like Jonathan India will continue to see more playing time at second base, and that's a position he could lock down with Massey out and struggling this year, seeing his playing time dwindle. And with Massey out and India shifting to second, that'll open up playing time in the outfield for the plethora of outfielders the Royals are currently employing. And lastly, we have closing pitcher Justin Martinez, who was placed on the 15-day IL with a sprained UCL. He's headed for a second opinion, but a lengthy absence is upcoming for Justin Martinez. With him out, Shelby Miller is expected to fill in as the Diamondbacks closer. In terms of transactions, first baseman Andres Chaparro was recalled from the minors by the Nationals. He should be on the short side of a first base platoon with Nathaniel Lowe. At AAA, Chaparro has batted .304 with 5 homers and a .167 WRC+, but I think he's more of a quad A type player at 26 years old. Next, we have starting pitcher Simeon Woods Richardson, who was recalled from the minors to replace the recently injured Zebby Matthews. He started versus the Rangers, tossing 4 2/3 innings, allowing 7 hits and 6 earned runs while walking 3 and striking out 4. He induced 7 whiffs with 21% CSW across 98 pitches. Not a great return for Woods Richardson, but the Twins rotation is ailing, so he will stick in the rotation for at least one more turn. Next, we have third baseman Jordan Westburg, who was activated from the 15-day IL. He'd been out for a while with a hamstring strain, and he'll reclaim everyday third base duties for the Orioles. And lastly, outfielder Cedric Mullins was activated from the 10-day IL as well to join Westburg. He was also out with a hamstring strain, and he played DH on Tuesday. Mullins did, but I think the optimum lineup moving forward for the Orioles, and likely the most common lineup we'll see, will be Colton Cowser in left field, Cedric Mullins in center field, Ramon Laureano in right field, and Ryan O'Hearn at DH. And you may be wondering, where's Heston Kjerstad? Well, he was optioned to the minors in a corresponding move to Mullins' reactivation. Kjerstad has batted .192 with just 4 homers and a .59 WRC+, so he'll try to figure things out at the AAA level. And in terms of news, relief pitcher Lucas Erceg is expected to be activated from the 15-day IL today. He had been out with a back strain and will return to being the top setup man to Royals closer Carlos Estevez. And lastly, starting pitcher Jacob Misiorowski is expected to be selected from the minors to make his MLB debut tomorrow versus the Cardinals. Misiorowski is the Brewers' number 4 prospect and is the number 68 prospect in baseball. At AAA this year, he's pitched to a 2.13 ERA with a 1.09 whip and a 32% strikeout rate in 13 appearances. Misiorowski is deadly with a an 80 grade 100-mile-per-hour heater, as well as some dope secondaries, but he has no control. So we'll see how this opening to his career starts. And I think I'd be picking him up in deeper leagues just to see how that start goes and determining from there whether or not I want to continue rostering him. Now we can take a look at our notable performances from Tuesday, a day in which we had a full slate of 15 games. We'll start things off with our hitters, leading off with outfielder Alek Thomas, who helped the Diamondbacks to win versus the Mariners, going 3 for 3 with 4 runs, a home run, an RBI, a walk, and a steal to complete the combo meal. He's up to 3 homers and 4 steals on the season now, and this one traveled 426 feet at 107 miles per hour. And I was sort of pumped about Thomas last year, but his season turned out to be decimated by injuries, and he appeared to be more of a fourth outfielder in Arizona heading into this season. However, he's seeing everyday at-bats in center field, with Jake McCarthy struggling this year and playing in the minors currently, and Thomas is doing his best to take advantage of it with a career-high 710 OPS, supported by a career-best 9% barrel rate. Unfortunately, Thomas's offensive ceiling is limited because he hits everything on the ground. If you've ever watched him swing, it's a very violent swing with lots of movement, which suggests he doesn't have a lot of control of where that pitch is, where the ball is going once it's hit. So I think his ceiling is limited by that. Everything he hits is on the ground, and he doesn't really maximize his power either because he doesn't pull the ball enough. Thomas is an option in 15-team 5 outfielder leagues thanks to underwhelming 5-category production. Next, we have outfielder Luis Robert Jr., who helped the White Sox to win in Houston, going 2 for 4 with a run, a double, a home run, and 2 runs batted in. It was his 6th homer of the year, and it traveled 362 feet at 104 miles per hour. And of course, he did this the first day I dropped him in my home league. I've held him all year despite his struggles, 184 average, 573 OPS, but I dropped him yesterday as I was getting tired of it. It's a points league with negative points for strikeouts, so that's pretty rough for Robert. But honestly, when he finally stayed healthy long enough to break out in 2023, it felt like he was here to stay, but strikeouts have really become the big issue for Robert and were a big problem for him last year, as well as missing 2 months on the IL as well. But Robert is trying to figure things out at the plate this year, mostly focusing on his plate approach. His strikeout rate is still over 30%, but he's attempting to offset those punch outs by being more patient at the plate, posting the first double-digit walk rate of his career. Unfortunately, it's clear the mental toll of slumping is having a larger effect on Robert. The White Sox sat him for a few days last week to hopefully get him right mentally, but I totally understand the frustration that comes with trying to break out of a slump and facing just tons of poor luck. His BABIP is super low. Everything suggests that Robert should be performing better. He just needs to be striking out less so that he can have more opportunities to impact the ball. I think a power surge is incoming for Luis Robert. And lastly, we have second baseman Jonathan India, who did all he could, but the Royals lost to the Yankees. He went 1 for 4 with a run, a home run, an RBI, and a walk for good measure. It was his 3rd homer of the year, and it traveled 415 feet at 105 miles per hour. And India's first season in Kansas City hasn't been great. He's making more contact than ever, leading to the lowest strikeout rate of his career. But outside of that, he hasn't done much despite leading off for the Royals. India has just a trio of long balls and has stolen no bags after being a power speed threat throughout his career. Playing in Kansas City seems to be taking a toll on him, as well as he's sporting a 30-point difference between his home and road WRC plus marks. Obviously, the lower one is at home. India's improved contact metrics suggest he could bat somewhere around 270, but with little power and no speed this year, the batting average becomes empty, accompanied only by the runs that he gets from leading off for the Royals. I honestly think it's time to cut bait in 12-team leagues on India if you haven't already. But if you'd like a breakdown of other notable hitting performances from Tuesday, check out the daily Batters Box article over on pitcherlist.com. Now we'll head to the mound and check out some notable starting pitching performances, opening with Grant Holmes, who did all he could, but the Diamondbacks lost in Milwaukee. He tossed 5 in the third innings, allowing 5 hits and 3 earned runs, while walking 3 and striking out 9. He induced 20 whiffs with 38% CSW across 100 pitches. And we don't often get these flashes of Holmes' ceiling, so it's best to look up and enjoy them while we can. But it's really good pun there. It's also weird to see Holmes have such bad results despite being a whiff machine in this one, but a pair of homers on a fastball and slider left over the plate accounted for all of the runs against him. And with the cutter taking a backseat, despite Holmes needing a secondary strike pitch, at times we saw 3 walks as well. So definitely not the best outing from Holmes, but still 20 whiffs is definitely intriguing. The fastball curveball slider combo was lethal in this one, as the heater returned 7 whiffs and 36% CSW. Despite being more middle than up, his slider sat below the zone, inducing 7 whiffs and 38% CSW. But it was the curveball coming in to be a beast against left-handed hitters with 6 whiffs and 50% CSW that really changed this night for Holmes. He hasn't had that hook as a setup, or he hasn't had that hook step up as a legit number 3 offering all year. So we may be starting to see an improved version of Holmes just in time for him to face the Mets, unfortunately. So if we can see him incorporate that curveball successfully against the Mets, I think it's time to start buying in for Holmes, looking like he's going on a really successful stretch throughout the summer. Next, we have Jose Soriano, who helped the Angels to win against the A's, tossing 7 innings, allowing 2 hits and 1 run while walking 2 and then striking out 12. He induced 23 whiffs with 43% CSW across 110 pitches. And what a night from Soriano, as he not only set a career high with a dozen punchouts, but he also earned the King Cole by leading baseball with his 43% CSW on Tuesday. Soriano's sinker was obscene, almost to the extent I've never seen before, with 60% usage for 16 whiffs and 38% CSW, as he sat a tick up at 98.2 and unleashed sinkers around the zone for 9 punchouts. His curveball was an excellent sidekick, returning 13 called strikes for 61% CSW, as it caught hitters off guard as they prepared for the 100-mile-per-hour heater. I wouldn't expect this from Soriano moving forward, but it's dope to see him display a strikeout ceiling we didn't know he had. Unfortunately, we'll have to avoid his next start in Bronx, but I'm certainly excited for the next opportunity to stream Soriano, given now we have a higher ceiling to chase. And lastly, Andrew Abbott helped the Reds to win in Cleveland, tossing a complete game shutout, allowing just 3 hits and 1 walk while striking out 5. He induced 16 whiffs with 28% CSW across 110 pitches. This is the first career shutout of Abbott's career, and also the first career complete game. So definitely a impressive night from Andrew Abbott. I really don't know how he does it, but Abbott sat a tick up at 93 miles per hour with his heater, and he generally kept the fastball upstairs, but he certainly got lucky, going 11 out of 12 on outs on balls in play, with 12 foul balls and 9 called strikes for good measure on the fastball. The changeup sweeper duo was effective against righties and lefties respectively, as Abbott's changeup and as they combined for 8 whiffs and 72% strike rate, while the curve factored in with 4 whiffs and 53% CSW. And honestly, it's got to be deception, and you got to keep starting Andrew Abbott. I mean, he's got a 1.87 ERA and a 0.97 whip. He's 6-1 on the season, and he gets the Twins next, so it's a clear start. Keep holding and starting Andrew Abbott. But if you'd like a breakdown of every single start from Tuesday, give the Plus Pitch podcast a listen and check out Nick's daily SP roundup over on pitcherlist.com. And now we'll head to the bullpen and check out the relievers that got saves and the closers that pitched outside of save situations or blew their saves. Starting with the former, Calvin Fauché recorded his 5th save with a scoreless 9th. Brandon Eisert pitched a perfect 9th to record his 2nd save, which currently leads the White Sox. Will Vest worked around a solo shot to record his 11th save. Greg Weissert pitched a perfect 9th for his 1st save of the season. Aroldis Chapman had pitched on 3 days in a row, so Weissert was just filling in. Trevor McGill recorded his 13th save with a perfect 9th. Jeff Hoffman recorded his 17th save as he worked around a solo homer to get the final out of the game. Camilo Doval pitched a scoreless 9th for his 10th save. And lastly, Bryce Jarvis got a 3-inning save, the first save of the season for Jarvis. And in terms of closers to pitch outside of save situations or blow their saves, Edwin Diaz pitched a perfect ninth in a tie game that the Mets would go on to win in 10. Kyle Finnegan blew his fourth save, attempting to escape an inherited jam in the eighth, then pitched a perfect ninth before the Nationals lost in 10 innings. Kenley Jansen pitched a scoreless ninth in a tie game that the Angels would win in 10. And lastly, Zach Agnos allowed 4 runs in the ninth to take his third loss. But if you'd like more information on relief pitchers, check out Rick Graham's weekly articles over on pitcherlist.com. And before we look forward to today's games, we're going to take a quick break. Now we'll look forward to Wednesday, June 11th, a day in which we'll have a full slate of 15 games. My matchup of the day is Clark Schmidt versus Chris Bubich. Should be a good matchup. Honestly, just excited to watch Bubich pitch again. He's been incredible this year, and he's taken on a tough lineup in the Yankees, so we'll see how he does with a little bit of adversity. In terms of probable starters, we've got 4 guys in the auto starts tier, including Robbie Ray in Colorado, Spencer Schwellenbach in Milwaukee, David Peterson against the Nationals, and Brian Wu in Arizona. Our probably starts tier has 5 guys, and that's where we'll find our streamer of the day in Bailey Falter versus the Marlins. The Marlins are very poor lineup, and they are even worse against left-handed pitchers, which Falter is. His fastball is dope. I think he can do some great stuff here against the Marlins. And I'd also keep an eye out for David Festa against the Rangers. He's young. His last outing wasn't great because it was impromptu, but I think Festa could find some success here. His stuff is good. He just doesn't really have the best control. So maybe this is the night where Festa puts it all together. In terms of hitter suggestions, I go for Padres hitters versus Justin Wroblewski and his 7.20 ERA in Petco Park. Not a great opportunity for Wroblewski here, but great opportunity for the Padres hitters to take advantage of him. I'd also look at Pirates hitters versus Cal Quantrill and his 5.63 ERA in PNC Park. Quantrill has not been great this year, and the Pirates hitters should be able to take advantage. I'd also look at A's and Angels hitters in Angel Stadium. The pitching matchup is not great. JP Sears and his 5.21 ERA versus Kyle Hendricks and his 5.40 ERA could see fireworks in Anaheim. I'd also look at Cubs and Phillies hitters in Citizens Bank Park. We'll see Ben Brown and his 5.37 ERA take on Jesus Luzardo, who has really struggled across his last couple of starts and could continue doing so against the Cubs. And lastly, we got to look at Rockies and Giants hitters in Coors. Pretty self-explanatory. We'll see Robbie Ray take on Kyle Freeland, so target right-handed hitting Giants and Rockies hitters. And now we'll close things out with our relievers to watch. Jeff Hoffman has pitched on back-to-back days and in 4 of the past 5. I'd expect Brendan Little to be the top option for saves if Hoffman isn't back out there. Kenley Jansen has also pitched on back-to-back and in 4 of the past 5, so I'd think Ryan Zefferjon is the temporary closer for the Angels. And lastly, Calvin Fauché has pitched in 3 of the past 4 days, but so has Ronnie Henriquez, so maybe we see Anthony Bender get a save for the Marlins on Tuesday. But that'll do it for today's episode of the First Pitch Podcast. Make sure to head on over to pitcherlist.com to check out all of the great articles and features we have on the site. Sign up for PL Plus or PL Pro to gain access to the Discord and to support the Pitcher List staff. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler, tune in live on YouTube tomorrow and every day for a new installment of the podcast, and make sure to enjoy the day as we are blessed with another day of baseball.